drive all night. I will drive all night. Leave it all behind. I will drive all night.
Hello guys, welcome to my channel once again. How have you been? It's been a minute. I remember promising to be coming more often, and here I am fulfilling my promise. Okay, so if you're thinking of leaving the location where you are outside of Abuja, you're thinking of relocating to Abuja, probably you're outside the country or you're within the country, I think this video is for you. And I have written down some points so that I honestly do not have to blab while I'm talking. I notice I blab a lot whenever I'm doing my video. I'm getting better by the day. We'll get better. We'll reach the permanent zone, okay? Yeah, so before I do that, I honestly want to correct an impression a lot of people have concerning living in Abuja. A lot of people think that for you to live in Abuja, you must earn XYZ salary, which I honestly think is not true. Once you tell, there's a trend basically, once you tell someone that you're staying in Abuja, the first thing you hear is you're a big girl, you know, staying in Abuja, staying in such a location, which I honestly think is not true. I've had lots of comments, maybe whenever I travel to Lagos and I meet maybe my secondary school mate or my university schoolmate, or on social media we're chatting, the thing that just comes to their mind is you're a big girl, which I think I honestly want to address before I start stating out some facts I think you need to know before you come into town. Now, Abuja, number one fact I think you need to know is that Abuja accommodates all sorts of class, all category of people, all social status. So if you really want to relocate to Abuja, I think there's honestly a room for you. Now, my first thing I'm going to be mentioning is housing. Now, Abuja has different categories of housing, and every single category comes with a price tag. Okay, so if you're staying in the city center, you just know that the houses you get in the city center are obviously going to be more expensive than the ones you have in the satellite towns. Now, when you now move, the satellite towns are places who, of course, you know what satellite towns are. They are not in the city centers. They're like towns or habitations where you have a lot of people living there. And now, different satellite towns command different rent. So you have some satellite towns that are not so clustered, that are more organized than some, and because they're more organized than some, because they have more quality houses than some, it's only normal that they're going to command higher rent. And also, like for instance, in some area a 2-bedroom flat may be going for like £1 million now. Some you can get for 800, some 500, some I think maybe in some areas you might even get for 300. So one thing you need to put in mind when you're looking for a house in Abuja is the fact that the closer the cities not city center, the closer the satellite town is to the city center, the higher the rent is. So some people would rather pay a certain amount of money and probably do 20 minutes drive after work or after any outing to get the kind of house they want, rather than paying a certain amount of money and yet they're not getting what they're achieving. So that is one thing I need you to know when it comes to that. So for you to get a house, what you can do, if you have a budget when it comes to getting a house, all you need to do is go to gg.com or OLX, type for instance 2-bedroom flat for 500,000 naira, and honestly you will see different locations will pop up giving you different options you need to know when you come to housing in Abuja. So that is sorted. If you have a 3-bedroom flat craving, your budget will tell you where you can get such accommodation. So that's one. And one good thing I think that happens in Abuja is nobody would judge you because of where you're staying. Honestly, nobody will judge you, nobody will look down on you because you stay in a particular area. I think more often you probably hear guy, you they try, you say they come from this location, which is very, very far, I know. So that's basically it. So just have it in mind that there are different houses for different people, different price tag for different houses. So in Abuja, you cut your cloth, or you cut your coat, sorry, according to your cloth. So that is that. Another thing I would like to state is transportation. Now, Abuja is one of the, well, because I've not gone around Nigeria, maybe I should just compare Abuja and Lagos State. Now, when it comes to transportation, do you know that in some locations you can get a taxi for as low as 200 naira, as low as 300 naira, 500 naira and above. So excuse me, the distance you're going to determines the amount that will be charged. I know taxis are very, very expensive in Lagos, and I honestly do not think that you're ever going to get a taxi for 200 naira or 300 naira in Lagos. But these things are common in Abuja because we don't have traffic in Abuja. Yes, I'm aware that some areas have traffic, but the city center, mostly we don't have traffic in Abuja, so that's why you can actually get taxis that's cheap. Now, if you can't even afford to pay as low as 300 naira, 200 naira, 500 naira, depending on location you're going to, there's something they call along, where you have public transport. You tag along, like, is it tag along? No, it's not tag along, they call it. They actually call it along. Just public transportation, basically. A taxi man will prefer to carry like 5 people and charge them maybe 100 naira and get his 500 naira depending on the location they're going to. I know those along can go as cheap as 50 naira depending on the distance. The along can go as 100, 150 depending on the distance. And yes, and again, if you're staying in satellite towns, I know that a lot of people who have their private cars carry people to work, and you just pay them, I think, like 150 or so when you come into town. Either you take a taxi or you continue with the public transport. So transportation is something that is so easy when you're in Abuja. There are no bikes in the city centers, so you have the public transport doing all those things for you at very, very affordable rates. And then you also have the taxis. Now in the satellite towns, there are bikes, apart from Gwarimpa and Life Camp. These areas, I'm aware, do not have bikes, but they have keke napep that carry you, tricycles. If you don't know what keke napep is, they carry you from one location to the other, 50 naira, 100 naira. So transportation really in Abuja is super, super cheap. Now, another thing I need you to bear in mind is the food. We all know that large production of the farming happens in the north, and Abuja is like north central. So we have a lot of cheap food. As far as vegetables, tubers, and all of those things are concerned, those things are super, super cheap in Abuja. I remember, I think sometime last year I was in Lagos and I had to go to Ebano to buy some things because I couldn't find market. I was in Lekki, somewhere in Chevron, and they said I have to go to Ebano to buy things. And it was funny to me how they were selling things there. I saw a woman with a basket of tomatoes. You come there, you measure the quantity. You can't buy less than a kilo. I wanted to buy pepper that day, and they were telling me I have to buy a kilo of pepper, and I'm like, this is too much. Like, what am I going to do with every single thing, like the rest of the pepper? And they insisted, which is not so in Abuja. I remember, well, it's actually not so. It's not so in Abuja. When you go to the market, you can see pepper as cheap as 100 naira, 50 naira, and they're enough to cook you a pot of soup or a pot of stew. So it's not the same. You even have more flexible terms. In my former area, in front of my quarters in my former area, we have this Hausa man who has tables where he sells his fresh produce, and any day I feel like maybe making fresh vegetable sauce or maybe making indomie, and I have to put in all those vegetables. I can just go to his place and maybe take one tomato, one pepper, one carrot and all of those things, put them together and ask him how much, and he will tell me how much to pay. Maybe he might be like 100 naira or so. So things are super cheap in Abuja. Now another thing I want to also state is the market. Maybe because we have large produce in the north, there are lots of markets in Abuja. I honestly know that we have 4 major markets in the city center. What people do in Abuja is, if it's not of course for proximity's sake, if you want more convenience, you can just go to those markets and buy your things. Now some people feel some markets are cheaper than some, but me, I honestly think the difference is not so much. Palm oil might be sold in, for instance, Wuse market for 500 naira a bottle, and maybe in Gariki market 450, and maybe in a satellite town 400. So the difference is not so much. I know one thing people do when it comes to market is, if you have to buy in large quantity, we also have market outsketch. There are markets where all the farmers come together and sell their things. All the farmers come together and sell their things and all. So because they're coming together, it's definitely cheaper than it should be. So if you don't want to buy from the city centers, you have market outside the city center. Every satellite town has a market, and apart from that, we have major areas like the Madonna market. I hear there are Thursdays. There's another market in Day that sells. I think maybe Saturdays you come there, you meet these farmers themselves, sell these things to you. There's Orange market. There are lots of markets where you can buy these things. So these are the things I honestly think you should have in mind when you're making your decision. So having these things in mind, whoever thinks that living in Abuja is expensive, I honestly think is a wrong impression. And then one thing that I know that Lagos has that we do not have here as much as they have is the buka. Now because Abuja is a city center, we don't have all these people. We don't really have bukas rampant everywhere. What we have here is of course same buka, but they're in corners like corals like this, in major offices, in major areas, servicing the people who are working every single day. So unlike Lagos that you're walking on the street, in the street you probably might have like 2-3 of them, but here is not so common. Rather we have fast food, and we also have like amala joints. Now we have amala place, we have yo. So all of those bukas are supposed to be on a very ground level are actually to a certain extent. So you need to know who sells what where and who even sells it well for you to know where to go to and all. So having these things in mind, I think is going to help you in your decision making. But I also want to state that if you're thinking of relocating, it would be very good for you to get a car, because there are some areas that all these taxis don't go to. You might need to trek. Most times they're actually walking distance, and also for convenience sake, I honestly think that if you get a small car, it will not be a bad idea. But in the event that you can't afford to buy a car right now, like I've mentioned earlier on, the means of transportation is actually not bad at all. They're actually very affordable. So Abuja accommodates every class. Abuja accommodates every single class. So I need you to put that in mind, and I hope the facts that I have stated will aid your decision making and will remove some fear in your heart when it comes to moving in Abuja. So thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you some other time. Bye.